You've seen the videos. A woman sitting in her car, makeup smeared, whispering into her phone so her kids in the back seat don't hear her breaking down. Another one in the grocery store parking lot, staring at the total on the receipt like it's a threat. Another one on her lunch break, whispering into the camera about daycare costs, bills, exhaustion, and that constant gnawing feeling that she is one bad day away from everything collapsing. And the comments say the same thing every time. Women today are so weak. Modern women can't handle real life. But what if that's not the full story? Because here's the uncomfortable truth no one wants to look at. We told an entire generation of women, you can have it all. The career, the kids, the relationship, the social life, the perfect body, the spotless home, the mental health. We put it all on one plate and then acted shocked when it started to crack under the weight. We celebrate independence but quietly ignore what it really costs. We tell women to be strong and self-sufficient, but we also expect them to be endlessly nurturing, emotionally available, beautiful, ambitious, and unbothered. We tell them they don't need anyone, and then leave them alone to navigate jobs, children, finances, relationships, health, and social pressure with almost no real support system. So when you see that crying video, what are you actually looking at? Is it weakness? Or is it the moment the mask slips, when the pressure, the expectations, the debt, the burnout, and the loneliness finally spill over? In this video, we're not just going to point fingers at modern women or write them off as fragile. We're going to talk about why so many women feel like they're failing at a game that was rigged before they even started playing. How social media glamorizes independence but hides the isolation behind it. And what real strength looks like in a world that keeps demanding more while giving less. If you've ever looked at your life and thought, why is this so hard for me when everyone else seems fine? This isn't just about modern women. This is about the reality nobody wants to admit and what it actually takes to survive it. Part 1. The comfort promise that became a trap. We didn't arrive at this moment by accident. The struggles modern women face aren't simply the result of personal choices, personality flaws, or lack of toughness. They are the result of a cultural shift that told women what life should feel like, rather than teaching them how life actually works. For decades, society pushed an empowering narrative. You can be independent, you deserve the best, you don't owe anyone anything, and you should never settle. On the surface, that sounds uplifting and progressive. Who wouldn't want that message? But empowerment without preparation isn't freedom. It's a setup. A generation was told, follow your feelings, prioritize happiness, choose yourself, life will work out. What they weren't told was the fine print. Happiness fluctuates, independence requires skills, and freedom has a cost measured in time, energy, and responsibility. Many young women were raised with emotional validation, praise, and affirmation, but little exposure to delayed gratification, problem-solving, mechanical tasks, financial literacy, or conflict resolution. They were told to seek comfort, not to build capability. And comfort feels great until life stops cooperating. Small hardships that previous generations treated as routine now feel catastrophic, not because modern women are weaker, but because they were not conditioned to expect struggle. They were conditioned to avoid it. When life was easy, school, social media, entertainment, supportive parents, comfort became normal, not earned. Now adulthood arrives with bills, childcare schedules, health issues, work demands, and emotional complexity. Suddenly, the world that once catered to them no longer does. This isn't weakness, it's culture shock. Our grandmothers weren't naturally stronger, they were prepared. Their lives demanded self-reliance. They cooked from scratch, fixed clothing, managed households without Google, balanced family obligations, and often did it without applause. They didn't break down over responsibility because responsibility was woven into their identity. Today's culture reversed the pattern. Comfort first, capability later. Except later never came. Social media amplified the trap by promoting aesthetics over resilience. Instead of learning how to manage finances, many learned how to curate an image. Instead of building a support network, many built a follower base. Instead of mastering discipline, many mastered escapism. When reality finally arrives, crying in the car, overwhelmed in the grocery aisle, panicking over a broken tire, there's no emotional muscle memory to handle it. The tragedy isn't that women can't handle life. It's that no one taught them how. This isn't a call to return to the past. It's a call to reclaim what was lost. Self-reliance, resilience, coping skills, community support, and realistic expectations about what independence demands. Because true empowerment isn't being shielded from hardship. It's being able to face hardship without falling apart. Part 2. Emotional expression versus emotional resilience. Modern culture has convinced many people, especially women, that expressing emotions is the highest form of authenticity. We hear constant messages like, "Your feelings are valid," "Speak your truth," "Share your struggles," and on the surface, that's healthy. No one should be silent about pain or pretend life is easy. The problem isn't emotional expression. The problem is that expression has replaced emotional regulation. We built a culture that rewards vulnerability, but never teaches what to do after the breakdown. So when life hits with financial stress, parenting challenges, relationship conflict, career pressure, or loneliness, the default response becomes collapse, share, seek comfort, instead of breathe, assess, act, solve. Not because people are dramatic, but because that's the only coping strategy they've been encouraged to use. Instead of learning how to stabilize themselves, many learn how to broadcast distress. Social media plays a massive role in this. Platforms reward emotional display, crying videos, venting monologues, meltdown confessions, with likes, comments, validation, and sometimes even money. Meanwhile, emotional discipline gets no applause. No one records themselves staying calm during a crisis. No one goes viral for quietly solving a problem before it explodes. Strength is silent, struggle is performative. The result? Emotional vulnerability becomes a performance loop. Crisis happens, emotion overwhelms, breakdown is posted online, validation arrives, the cycle continues, but nothing improves. This doesn't build resilience. It builds dependency on emotional outsourcing. Instead of processing feelings internally or with trusted support systems, many turn to an audience. Instead of learning how to calm themselves, they rely on external empathy. Instead of seeking solutions, they seek attention. It may feel comforting in the moment, but it prevents growth. Validation without coping skills is emotional fast food. It fills you, but it doesn't nourish you. Contrast that with resilience, not emotional suppression, but the ability to feel deeply and still function. Resilience doesn't deny emotion. It organizes it. It recognizes, "I'm overwhelmed," but follows with, "Let's figure out the next step." Previous generations weren't emotionless. They simply didn't have the luxury of collapsing. Survival forced emotional regulation. Today, comfort removes urgency, so breakdowns become default coping mechanisms instead of last resorts. Real resilience comes from sitting with discomfort instead of escaping it, learning skills instead of outsourcing problems, building routines instead of reacting to chaos, responding instead of emotionally spiraling, choosing action before expression. None of this means women, or anyone, should stop expressing their feelings. It means expression needs to be paired with competence. Cry if you need to, but after the tears, make a plan. Vent online if it helps, but follow it with action offline. Strength isn't the absence of emotion. Strength is the ability to carry emotion and still move forward. Part 3. The weight of doing life alone. One of the biggest reasons modern life feels overwhelming isn't personal weakness, it's isolation. For most of human history, adults didn't navigate life alone. Families lived in close proximity. Communities shared responsibilities. Parents raised children with extended support, and households split tasks based on roles, strengths, and necessity. Survival wasn't individual, it was cooperative. Today, independence is the default, but independence without support is just exhaustion with better branding. When women say life feels impossible, managing bills, working full-time, raising kids, handling health needs, maintaining a home, it's not because those tasks are new. It's because they're doing all of them at once, without structural backup. Modern society took away community, removed extended family support, destabilized long-term relationships, and glorified self-sufficiency, then acted confused when people hit their breaking point. There is no version of adulthood where one person is supposed to be the income generator, household manager, emotional caretaker, meal planner, childcare provider, and life strategist all at once. That's not empowerment, that's overload. When you see a woman crying in her car after work, it's not just that work was stressful. It's that she still has to pick up the kids, cook dinner, respond to emails, clean the house, plan financially, handle logistics, and manage everyone's emotional well-being, without another adult to absorb any weight. The struggle becomes even more intense with children, not because motherhood is inherently unbearable, but because modern motherhood is often solo motherhood. Even in two-parent households, many women report carrying the mental load, the invisible labor of tracking schedules, organizing lives, remembering needs, planning ahead. It's not always physical exhaustion, it's cognitive burnout. Past generations struggled too, but they had. Nearby family who babysat without scheduling weeks ahead, neighborhood communities that stepped in automatically, multi-generational households where labor was shared, churches, schools, and local networks that filled gaps, clear role divisions that reduced overlap and friction. Today, many women have paid childcare or none at all, friends who are also overwhelmed, parents who live far away or still working, partners who are emotionally unavailable or absent, a culture that says needing help means you've failed. We replaced community with independence, but independence doesn't parent children at 2 a.m. or fix a flat tire or cover rent when daycare costs equal a paycheck. Independence cannot tutor homework and show up to work and maintain emotional stability simultaneously. The issue isn't that modern women can't handle life. The issue is that life wasn't designed to be handled alone. Strength is not measured by how much one person can carry. It's measured by how well burdens are shared. The solution isn't to demand more from individuals, but to rebuild structures that support families, relationships, and community partnerships so people aren't constantly operating at their emotional and physical limits. Because nobody, man or woman, thrives in isolation. Part 4. Social media teaches lifestyle, not life skills. We live in a world where people learn how to look successful long before they learn how to be successful. Modern culture doesn't teach budgeting, conflict resolution, or basic household management. It teaches aesthetics, branding, and curation. And while there's nothing inherently wrong with wanting beauty, convenience, or personal expression, those things can become substitutes for capability when they take priority over function. Social media platforms reward a polished lifestyle. The organized kitchen, the curated morning routine, the that girl productivity aesthetic. But none of this content teaches how to negotiate rent, handle conflict in relationships, choose the right insurance plan, fix a minor plumbing issue, or manage stress without self-destructing. It creates a world where people know how to perform adulthood, not live it. This becomes especially damaging when expectations come from someone else's filtered life. A perfectly lit, minimalist apartment online doesn't show the budget breakdown, the repairs, the emotional stress, or the logistics required to create that environment. And when real life lacks that polished symmetry, it feels like failure. Not because the person is failing, but because their expectations are based on fantasy. Social media doesn't just shape what people want, it shapes what they think life should feel like. When every online moment looks effortless, real effort feels like a sign something is wrong. Instead of struggling and pushing through, many people interpret discomfort as a signal to opt out. Life becomes something to keep aesthetically aligned, not something to endure, learn from, and master. This creates a deeper problem. People become experts in expression rather than execution. They know how to document their burnout, post about anxiety, caption their pain, but haven't developed the tools to resolve those feelings. Expression becomes the outlet, not the solution. And because online communities respond with encouragement, "You're doing enough. Don't pressure yourself. You deserve rest." People receive emotional validation without behavioral change. Rest becomes a lifestyle, not a recovery tool. Self-care becomes an escape, not a recalibration. This doesn't just affect women, it affects society. But women are more targeted by the content industries built around emotional expression, lifestyle branding, wellness culture, and aesthetic achievement. They're encouraged to seek fulfillment through beauty, environment, novelty, and identity, rather than through skill building, challenge, and resilience. So when life demands something uncomfortable, a confrontation at work, a financial sacrifice, a stressful parenting moment, many feel blindsided. They learned how to decorate life, not navigate it. There's nothing wrong with beautiful routines, skincare rituals, curated outfits, or soft life dreams. But those things can't replace foundational life skills. A soothing candle doesn't fix a broken washing machine. A self-care day doesn't repair a fractured relationship. A therapy buzzword doesn't replace emotional maturity. A strong life is built from the inside outward, not the other way around. The goal isn't to reject lifestyle culture, it's to anchor it to actual competence. Use social media for inspiration, not direction. Build habits that look good because they work, not because they photograph well. Because in the end, the strongest lives aren't curated, they're constructed. Part 5. The Preparation Gap. Capability. Isn't the issue, conditioning is. When people say modern women can't handle real life, the implication is that women today are somehow less capable than previous generations. That's not true. The capability is there. Intelligence, drive, ambition, creativity, and emotional depth are all present. What's missing is preparation. Not because women failed to learn, but because society failed to teach. Past generations grew up in environments where responsibility wasn't optional. It was embedded into daily life. You learned to cook because someone had to. You learned to budget because there was no backup plan. You learned to handle emergencies because help wasn't guaranteed. Life trained resilience through necessity. Today's culture trains comfort through convenience. We live in a world where apps deliver food, cars start with buttons, finances auto-pay, and information is one Google search away. Tasks that once built competence are now outsourced to technology or professionals. In many ways, that's progress. But progress without skill building creates dependence. Young women today are often praised for expression, aesthetics, and self-worth, while boys are often pushed toward responsibility, fixing things, solving problems, and enduring uncomfortable tasks. These expectations are cultural, not biological. Boys hear, figure it out, handle it, no one cares, finish the job. Girls hear, ask for help. You shouldn't have to deal with that. Someone else should make things easier for you. One group is conditioned for challenge, the other is conditioned for comfort. Both messages have flaws, but the imbalance creates adults with different default responses to adversity. This doesn't mean women can't handle difficult situations. Many absolutely can. But many weren't taught to expect difficulty, which means struggle feels like failure rather than part of life. The preparation gap shows up in real-world scenarios. A tire blows out on the freeway. One person has a plan: pull over, call roadside help, stay calm. Another panics, cries, and feels attacked by the universe. Bills pile up unexpectedly. One person revises the budget and adjusts spending. Another feels betrayed by life and emotionally shuts down. Kids misbehave or routine breaks down. One enforces structure, adapts, and rebuilds order. What's overlooked is this: resilience is not innate, it's learned. Strength isn't genetic, it's practiced. Competence is built through failure, repetition, and responsibility, not comfort, praise, and protection. The solution isn't to tell women to toughen up or go back to traditional roles. It's to expand their toolkit, teach mechanical and financial basics, encourage emotional regulation and logical thinking, normalize discomfort as part of adulthood, create spaces where women lead, not collapse. Shift validation from vulnerability to growth. Empowerment isn't telling women they shouldn't struggle. Real empowerment is giving them the skills to handle struggle without falling apart. Part 6. From blame culture to responsibility, the shift that changes everything. At the core of many modern struggles isn't a lack of strength, it's a lack of ownership. We live in a culture that normalizes externalizing problems. If something goes wrong, there's always someone or something else to point to: the job, the economy, the ex, the government, the parents, society, patriarchy, toxic people, or even the universe aligning against me. Modern culture has made blame a coping mechanism and victimhood a social identity. But here's the problem: the moment responsibility leaves your hands, so does power. You can't change what you refuse to claim. You can't improve a situation you insist isn't your fault. And you can't grow if you never examine your role in your own outcomes. Blame gives emotional relief, but it steals agency. It makes you feel better today, while guaranteeing you'll feel worse tomorrow because nothing changes. Responsibility doesn't mean everything is your fault. It means you accept that improvement is your job. This applies to relationships, work, finances, parenting, and mental health. Life isn't fair. People disappoint us. Circumstances aren't always our choice, but how we respond is always ours. Many women today were raised on messaging that prioritizes how they feel over what needs to be done. If something causes discomfort, the solution becomes removing the discomfort rather than building the capacity to handle it. This plays out in subtle ways. Struggles in relationships become proof that the partner is inadequate, not signals to improve communication or emotional skills. Financial stress becomes evidence that society or employers are unfair rather than a cue to budget, upskill, or adjust habits. Parenting difficulties become signs of burnout and victimhood instead of reflections on structure, boundaries, and consistency. It's not that external factors don't matter. They absolutely do. But a life built on blame leaves no space for evolution. Meanwhile, responsibility is often mischaracterized as self-blame, guilt, or shame. In reality, responsibility is empowering. It says, I have the ability to respond. I'm not helpless. I have control over how this story unfolds. When women adopt that mindset, everything changes. Finances stabilize because spending becomes conscious. Relationships improve because communication becomes intentional. Parenting becomes calmer because emotional leadership replaces reactivity. Mental health strengthens because coping skills replace spirals. This shift doesn't erase support systems. It makes them supplemental instead of foundational. A responsible person can accept help, but they don't depend on it. They can express emotion, but don't weaponize it. They can feel overwhelmed, but still act through it. Responsibility transforms life from something that happens to you into something you direct. The world will always present challenges. The question isn't whether life is fair, it's whether we're equipped to face what's unfair and build something better anyway. Responsibility isn't a burden. It's the gateway to self-respect. Part 7. Building strength. Instead of collapsing under pressure, at some point, the question stops being, "Why is life so hard?" and becomes, "How do I make myself strong enough to handle it?" Real life will always bring stress, unexpected problems, financial strain, emotional challenges, and periods of isolation. The difference between those who break down and those who rise isn't luck, privilege, or personality. It's preparation and response. Strength is not something you're born with. It's something you build deliberately. The women who thrive aren't necessarily the ones with the most support or the easiest circumstances. They are the ones who decide that struggle is not a stopping point, but a training ground. They don't wait to feel ready. They don't wait for someone to save them. They learn skills, build habits, and create systems that protect them from future chaos. They shift from reaction to strategy. Instead of emotional spiraling when bills pile up, they build budgets, track spending, and plan in advance. Instead of melting down when schedules become overwhelming, they set routines, boundaries, and expectations. Instead of venting about exhaustion online, they restructure their life to reduce unnecessary stress and increase stability. Strength doesn't remove emotion. It organizes emotion so it doesn't spill into everything. This kind of transformation requires humility. It means admitting, "I wasn't prepared for adulthood. My coping strategies aren't working. I need to learn new skills." That honesty is uncomfortable, especially in a culture that teaches self-love without self-improvement. But discomfort is the doorway to growth. Life doesn't get easier. You become someone who can handle more. And when that shift happens, everything else improves. Relationships stabilize because you show up as a partner, not a burden. Children thrive because structure replaces chaos. Finances improve because discipline replaces impulse. Mental health strengthens because you trust yourself to handle stress. The goal is not to become a hardened, emotionless version of strength. The goal is to build a foundation sturdy enough to support your emotions, not collapse under them. Modern life demands competence, regardless of gender. The women who succeed moving forward will be the ones who embrace capability the way previous generations embraced endurance. They will not see strength as an attack on femininity, but as fuel for it. They will blend resilience with softness, independence with teamwork, emotional expression with emotional regulation. Strong women don't reject support. They choose support from a position of power, not dependence. Because here's the truth. No one wants to carry someone who refuses to stand. But everyone respects someone who carries themselves and welcomes partnership, not rescue. The modern world doesn't need women who crumble under pressure. It needs women who grow through pressure. Women who choose capability, leadership, accountability, and growth. Women who don't define strength by how loudly they struggle, but by how quietly they improve. Life will always demand more. The question is whether we will demand more from ourselves in return. The women who rise to that challenge will shape the next generation, not with tears, but with example.